Hey, what's up? I just gotta go to that place, I just gotta go to that place where I can just say what I feel. John Mayer, say what you need to say. Say what you need to say. I took that song way too seriously. And then I recorded this podcast. Say what you need to say. Say what you need to say. Say what you need to say. Why don't you say what you need to say, John Mayer? Sounds like you're a little bit caught up in just saying something that you would need to say, rather than that you're actually saying. So what he needed to say is just to say what you need to. Apparently, I mean, if he's really living by say what you need to say, or don't say it at all. That's what most people do. Or you could just ignore that particular thing. People will probably just forget about it. Whatever you're thinking about, it probably wasn't that great. Whatever it was you needed to say, it'll all blow over in a few weeks, so just forget about it. Say what you don't want to say. Say things that you're just trying to deceive people with. Say fucked up things that'll ruin people's lives, or don't. Or forget about it. Say what you need to say, what you need to say, what you need to say, or don't. Maybe you should. Like rap songs, they kind of take their persona seriously. That's what I gather. They kind of sometimes, if it's DaBaby, that guy is kind of taking seriously the kinds of things he's saying about Raris and, you know, the rich life of having diamonds on, for example, your wrist, or such a place as I don't know, like a necklace, or that's something that goes around your head. They might get sort of, it's like rappers, they get really into what they're saying about their kind of lifestyle. It's as if they really want to promote the lifestyle the way that they live it. They're kind of proud and braggadocious. Whenever they're singing their songs, I think to myself that, wow, they are really high on themselves. I wish that, but don't get lost in suicide. Don't get lost in suicidal thoughts. THOTS. No, you do not want to date a suicidal thought. No, you do not want to be in that. Not at all. Whoa. Way too much baggage for you to get involved with a suicidal thought. SUICIDAL. THOT. Saturday night. Yeah. Suicidal thoughts. When I'm with you, all I get is suicidal thoughts. Suicide. When I'm with you, all I get is suicidal thoughts. For whatever reason, it's hard to explain. It's hard to figure out where that came from, where that originates from, that whenever I'm with you, that for whatever reason, what results is in my life, particularly in the area of thoughts, suicidal ones, and that is hard for me to determine why that comes about as a result of me being in proximity to you, and then I receive as a result of that suicidal thoughts, as opposed to well-minded thoughts. When I'm with you, all I feel like is that every thought around me is well-meaning, provided that they're stable in other areas of their lives. Suicide is tough. Don't get lost in suicide. And I'm just bringing that up because I was going to say this before, I thought about saying this before, just that people refer to suicide as the easy way out, when in reality, it is not very easy to kill yourself. If suicide is that easy, if suicide is so easy, I would have done it by now. If it's really that easy. Suicide is hard. It's not easy, because suicide is the thing that you would need to think about 40,000 times, and you already know how to do it, and that you still can't do it after thinking about it 40,000 times. That's the definition of some activity that is too complex to carry out. That's hard. That suicide is the easy way out. This is just a manipulated agenda pushed on the suicidal by the unsuicidal that people wouldn't understand. people who are afraid of that activity, people who need to control everything. It's just difficult for when you have a world that likes to control everybody's activities, that you really don't have any control or say legally over somebody making a decision to kill themselves. You can't protect against that in any legal way. And so people who are controlling, they probably wouldn't like the idea that there's these uncontrollable nature about people, and so they try to paint that whole thing as selfish, or just brush it under the rug, not talk about it enough, or not explain that they're like the suicidal nature of whatever, that like everybody might have relatively suicidal thoughts or something. It's just, but like, or they make it so that they put into a box anybody who has slightly suicidal thoughts, so that you're the suicidal over here. And but, this is like a point that I bring up, but I'm just referring to it in terms of suicide instead of like paranoia or something. And that's fun. And it's not very fun. Suicide's not very fun. It's EB. Like Eggland's Best commercials. Eggland's Best commercials were made for suicide. Made with suicide in mind. Our eggs come to you fresh from the farms of Eggland. Straight from the trucks of the farms of straight from the eggs from the asses of chickens. I don't think they come out the ass. I don't know. Straight from the asses of chickens, our eggs come fresh to your plate. Cracked fresh right on your plate. The raw eggs deep from the bowels of our chickens. Don't waste any time to get to your door. Eggland's Best. Like, whoever started that company is probably completely out of their mind, because the title of their company in itself is just an advertisement on its own. Besides that, they would be in the business of advertising themselves. You already can tell by the fact that Eggland's Best runs commercials frequently enough that you know who they are. They run a commercial that they have someone saying that it's EB, and you remember what that is, and that it's EB. But what are those commercials trying to say? That it's easy to eat an egg? Yeah, I think so. I think that it's easy to eat an egg. As far as I know, is there something... The incredible edible egg. The incredible edible egg. That they think that they have the right to use that melody. They think that just because they rhyme the word edible with incredible, that they have the right to use this jazzy melody. They're like, wow, well, we got ya, so it's the incredible edible egg, yeah. Because we rhymed edible with incredible, this gives us the right to change the melody whatever way we want. Like, oh, wow. Look at what we're able to do if you can tell we already rhymed those two words, because the entire point of that jingle is just to say that, well, edible rhymes with incredible, and that kind of sounds nice. And that kind of sounds nice on its own, that edible rhymes with incredible. But in reality, for those two adjectives, one of them is very obvious, and then the other one is wrong. Like, that an egg is edible, yeah, of course it is. The edible egg, that an egg is edible, it's eatable, we already know that you can eat it. Like, if somebody's trying to convince you that an egg can be eaten, you would be like, okay, yeah, I know. Is there something more I should know about this egg? Is there a reason you're bringing that up, that it's eatable? Everybody knows that you can eat an egg, and that's like 97% of our country's relationship to the egg, is that you eat it. But that it's incredible, this doesn't apply at all. Eggs are not incredible, they're everywhere. If something is so convenient that it's always 5 minutes from your house, this is not an incredible thing, because you're not describing that edibility is incredible. Incredible is not an adverb in this case, or whatever it is. Incredible is an adjective describing the egg. But that Eggland's Best titles himself Eggland's Best, and it's like they're dragging the entire country along, acting as if the country has a relationship to this fictional place. Like, they act as if everybody's been to Eggland, and then they've tested out different eggs there, so that they might know a little bit about differences in eggs from this place. They would know, like, oh, these ones are the best, or they're like, oh, since they're the best from Eggland, They act like the entire they make these assumptions just by running a commercial in your face, but that people still go out and buy these eggs. They're forcing you into the assumption that we know about this place called Eggland and that the best from that place are like these really great eggs. And like that they're Eggland's best as opposed to Egg World's least offensive eggs. Because if you're going to use a superlative like best when every egg that you produce is the same egg, like these are Eggland's best. And when Eggland is just like Eggland's best is just an advertisement in a title because you're already promoting something in an exaggerated way. You're saying your eggs are the best when they're just eggs, but that there's no egg that comes from your corporation. And just because you're a corporation and then you hide behind that there's this place called Eggland when you're a corporation with houses, like you mass produce eggs just like anybody else. But then it's like, but they just want to make it so that when you're not thinking about it, which is what anybody would do, like, why wouldn't you go to the supermarket and buy Eggland's Best? Like, you can't. I was there and I was there to buy eggs, and I figured since it was Eggland's Best, I couldn't do any better than that. I mean, they're the best, and from Eggland, you know that they must be good if it's Eggland. You must know that that must be good. I can't believe it's not Eggland's least concerned eggs. Because if you're going to use a superlative like best when every egg is the same, then the superlative doesn't apply at all. And so you might as well just say that they're anything, like they're Eggland's furthest gone. Eggland's furthest gone eggs. Eggland's most inconspicuous eggs. As opposed to like Egg World's least disgusting eggs. I'm going to make a company called Egg Universe's worst eggs, with the premise being that as long as you understand it's from the entire universe, you have to choose eggs from the entire universe, or from an entire universe, that the worst eggs from this universe would still be better than the best from a place called Eggland, which is probably just like a state or a country. Like no, I bought Egg Universe's worst because I figured based on the size of a universe, that's still better. As long as the company title is relatively better. Egg Universe's least appropriate eggs. I can't believe it's not. Wow, eggs from the entire universe. What a delicacy. Eggs from across the universe. I can't believe it. What a smorgasbord. I never thought I'd see so much variety. Egg Universe is the best. Egg Universe is my favorite. Way better than Eggland. It's easy. What's easy? That is an incredible edible egg. It's not incredible, and obviously it's edible. Yeah. It's an edible egg, but just because you rhymed edible with incredible, and they act like they're pulling a rabbit out of a hat with that jingle, with the melody they chose. Like, well, you see what we did in rhyming this? They act like they're pulling one over on you and that they deserve it. They act like they deserve to sing that whatever way they want because they really went there to rhyme edible with incredible. You weren't willing to do that. And so, you know what? We're just going to throw it in your face. The incredible edible egg. The incredible medical egg. The incredulous fetishist egg. My body is my own. Not my body. Not my body not going to receive any eggs that I don't want. Not in here. Not if they're Eggland's. Not if they're Eggland's most useless. I am Eggland. I am Eggland. Eggland. It sounds like Mordor or something. We have to make it back to Eggland. You don't, though. I guess it kind of sounds like England. But you don't have to make it back to England, Eggland. You don't have to go there at all. It doesn't exist. Eggland. Wow, these eggs came from Eggland? You should have said that sooner. I would have bought 30 dozens of them. I would have bought 42,000 cartons of Eggland if you told me that that's a real place. Whoa, wait a minute. I didn't know that these were from Eggland. I thought that they were from somewhere else. I thought they were just from some regular farm. If you had told me that these Eggland's best were actually from Eggland, then I would have eaten them in a much more joyful mood. I'm not ready for Eggland's best. I'm not ready for it. I'm not prepared. No, I don't know if I want Eggland's best today. Well, when I was cooking them up, I was just thinking like, well, these are the best eggs, just like it said. And I just like, it was so easy for me to make them after I knew that. It's the same with Egg World's least concerned eggs. When I was cooking those up, I just knew how unconcerned they were, and I was just really happy with my purchase. It's all about ease of mind, and I'm just happy to have purchased Eggland's least deconstructible eggs. Eggland's most aware, self-aware eggs. I just knew how aware they were, and then me and the eggs were both involved in that process in the same amount, and I didn't have anything to worry about because they were aware of what was going on. I didn't have any problem buying Egg Universe's most aware eggs. It was easy. It was easy for me to do. Just as easy as... It's just as easy as suicide as it is to eat an egg. Like... Suicide is as easy as eating an egg. This is what Eggland's Best wanted you to know. Because as long as there are easy things in the world, one of them is suicide. Another one is eating an egg. Well, there are hard things and there are easy things. Don't be a dumbass. Don't be a doofus. Don't classify suicide in the difficult category. Let me talk to you about immutability today. Let me talk to you about it. Now I have to talk to you about something serious. I don't feel like being serious. I don't want to go back there. I don't want to go back to Serious Town where I talk seriously about real life matters for serious matters. But they are serious and you need to know them, and this is vital to your lifespan. If you want to live longer, you're going to hear these words that I said. You're going to ponder them, you're going to meditate on them, and you're going to live them out in your life. You're going to make my words incarnate. The experience of you hearing this will be diminished in comparison to the experience of you living them out. My words are already alive. It's just that don't you let yourself get in the way of making them real. All right? Or else I have a team of SS officers that I'm ready to deploy at a given moment's notice at the point that this podcast isn't taken seriously. I have Gestapo ready. And I don't have any problem. I don't have any qualms letting them go, setting it off. I don't have any qualms giving them the order. I don't have any worries about that. I'm going to sleep soundly at night telling a fleet of SS officers to slaughter hundreds. I don't worry about that. And I never did, and I won't going forward. And me worrying about it now, this will not change the future. This will not change. Immutability is an idea about not changing. Immutability is about not changing. It describes invariability, that something doesn't vary, that something is or something that is fixed, something that's kind of constant is something that's more immutable. But I'm talking about this in relation to cryptocurrency. And let me try to say the ideas that I'm thinking about with this. They have to do with contracts, the way that contracts are described in cryptocurrency. Because if you're interested in it at all, something that kind of confuses me is that they use the word smart contract, and I can't figure out exactly what the contract is between, but the contract is just the way that they speak about it in cryptocurrency. A contract is less binding than a contract as we would typically think about it, because I guess what confuses me about it is that my idea of a contract is something that is binding, or it's like something you would worry about because of the permanence of it, because you can't get out of it. But they're not describing this with smart contracts and cryptocurrency. Like the kind of contract that this is isn't exactly like that, because they're just describing that a smart contract you write in cryptocurrency is immutable. So the smart contract is the program that you write, or like a cryptocurrency you write, or just a function that you write. And you can write it on a blockchain. The blockchain is the network that houses it, so that you create a node or a point of reference or an object within an object-oriented system. You write a program, and it's like, maybe in every case it's like a cryptocurrency, but it's like a new function within the system. But it's like the same as writing an application. It would be the same as if you made an application for your phone. But an application that you make for your phone, all the apps on your phone, or like most of them, unless you're really into decentralized apps and cryptocurrency, all the apps on your phone are centralized. They're housed on a centralized server, and it's a centralized server as opposed to a decentralized one. And so in cryptocurrency, when they make a contract, like if you write a program, this can exist as a decentralized app as opposed to a centralized one. And what is contractual about a decentralized app is that if you got one on your phone, you downloaded an app, and it was a decentralized one, this would be you downloading a version of the contract that was written, and then you play within the rules of the game of that application or of that contract or of that program that was written. When you use the app, you play within the rules of the game. It's the same with Twitter. Twitter has rules of a game. You download that and you play within the rules of that app. So in that sense, Twitter is a centralized app. Some decentralized app would be like a cryptocurrency that runs. It would be like a cryptocurrency as opposed to a website like Twitter. And a contract, you receive a version of the contract, but everybody who downloads a decentralized app has a version of the contract, and everybody is on board with this contract, with this program that was written. What makes it decentralized, or what makes it different, is that the contract is written on a blockchain. The blockchain, one of the main pillars is that it is immutable, so that the difference is a program that you write on a blockchain is immutable, it's unchangeable, it's invariable, it's constant, meaning that nobody can go in and change it afterward. This is what makes it different from Twitter. Twitter is mutable, is centralized, meaning that like somebody is behind it. It's centralized. It's up to a group of people, or basically it's up to the corporation, Twitter, that they can change their app whenever they want. And that means that they can censor you if they want to. They can go in and say these people will be censored, even though the rules of their game would have previously dictated that this is free and open. This is social media, it's open to anybody to say anything. It is not exactly that way, because at any moment the creators of this app can go in and change things to say that this group of people don't get any play, they can't use the app or whatever. They change. Basically, Twitter, Facebook, and Google get to change the rules of the game that they made whenever they want, because they're a corporation, and they change it to fit their ideologies and their agendas. With decentralized apps, the point is that they are immutable, they're not changeable. The person who created them cannot go in and change the rules of the game, so it's more a serious matter when you actually write the program, because it's going to stay that way forever. Like, you put it in there and then it's in a blockchain, the program you wrote has to stay that way. And so if you wanted to make a new version of it, you would have to write a completely different program and then tell everybody to go over there or whatever, which is a possibility. But it's like, you can't do that with Twitter. So the importance of it is that it doesn't change. The program that you write, that somebody wrote it, it doesn't change. The person who wrote the program, they're not in control of it. This is what's important about it. It's peer-to-peer, meaning that everybody who uses it is now in control of it. But it is a contract in a decentralized system. It is not, you wouldn't describe it as a contract, and they don't when it is like Twitter. What you're using is not, they don't describe it as a contract, because a contract, that terminology can only play out in a system where the thing that you're buying into doesn't change like a contract does. And so this is like, maybe it expands you describing a contract or what a contract can do. Like, it expands the idea of contracts, that you would say that this is a contract, because everybody who downloads it, they're taking part in the same point of reference. You're taking part in the same node. But recognize that the word contract is also for contracting. Like when a balloon contracts, all of the points on the balloon come together to a single point, so that if contraction is entirely carried out for this balloon, it would contract all of the points on the surface area of the balloon to a single point if contraction was taken to its fullest extent for this balloon that was previously inflated. And this is contraction literally reads as like literal means together. It means drawing together, but like the con part of it is for together, and then the tract part of it is kind of like the word tracing. Or no. The tract part of it is for drawing. The con part of it is for together. And the same way that conspiracy, the con part of that is for together, and then the spiracy part of it is for breathing. Conspiracy would literally read as a breathing together, but like a breathing together of people that are on the same side, because there are few ways better to describe people on the same side than that they are breathing together, because breathing is so basic to life. So a group of people that's breathing together, but it shows the unity. I guess it would conspiracy emphasizes the unity of the group of people that is together. It's so much so that they are breathing together, the group of people that is either for you or against you. I guess we describe conspiracy as people that are against us, but contract is together drawing. But like it's a drawing together the way that the way that a balloon draws together, the more that it contracts. But it's the same for a contract, is a drawing together of everybody who is on board with the contract. And so it is binding, like all the points on the balloon contract. And this is binding because they're being more bound as it contracts, as contraction is happening. But like everybody is on, it's an agreement that everybody makes to a node on a network, a point, a single point. This is a contract, and it is one contract, is this point, this node on the network. Everybody agrees to the point, the reality of the point, because the reality of the point is different from other realities. It's like Target as opposed to Home Depot. Those are different points, those are different programs with different rules. And the thing about cryptocurrency is, and like I am more, at this moment, and it changes for me, where I'm like, oh, cryptocurrency, I don't know if that's going to necessarily work out. At this moment, I do feel again like it will be the future, and it will probably just take a couple of years. Like I think it's the future. It's the future because we will go in a more decentralized direction because we like the security of that. But overall, pop culture is sort of dying. Seeing a lot of value of a company wrapped up in a single person or in a group of people, we don't like this as much. The individual is more dying than it used to. We go in decentralized directions as we evolve as a species. The individual is dying more so, but just that there's this whole field in cryptocurrency where people can set up corporations that aren't owned by the corporation, or at least are relatively less owned by the corporation, significantly so, because cryptocurrencies are significantly more decorporational than corporations as they exist today. And basically, the future is going to evolve to see the corporations that exist today with physical facilities all over the world. Those will be reduced, like made more efficient, the same way that computers used to take up an entire room and are being made more efficient. The same direction that technology and computers go, and phones, where phones would like get smaller, but a smaller device can contain so many functions. Like they go in directions of greater efficiency to computers or whatever. But corporations are going to go in this direction also, like physical corporations with sprawling tendrils all across the globe or whatever. They're going to be reduced to digital things, so that digital enterprises are going to be the substitute for what today are giant corporations or whatever, because the real value of it is in people being able to make their own cryptocurrency. It's just that the world doesn't exist right now where programming languages are well understood. And this is part of the reason why computers are always relevant going forward, or like, as long as you would say that they're always relevant, they'll always be relevant because they're written in a language that literally nobody understands, but yet the technology is so transcendent that we can't live without it. Like, people are really dependent on this thing that is written in languages that understands or is involved in any way. And cryptocurrency in part builds a bridge for the common person to maybe get more involved in writing codes, because creativity, a lot of creativity itself will be communicated through writing programs on a computer, because you can write any one of them. It's like, but cryptocurrency makes it easier for you to create a business and be an entrepreneur, but it's just that you can be an entrepreneur from your house now, whereas you used to have to go out and make a business. And it is still that way. You have to go out and like make a business now in most cases. It's just that the world is evolving to make even that, like, entrepreneurialism, that is even going to be digitized, or something that you can do from your house, is what cryptocurrency does. But it'll make it so that the average person is more related to computer languages. But the real value in it is just that you can create shit from your house. You can write these programs, and the more that people realize that you can set up a list, you can set up blockades worth of facilities within a program that you write. The more that people realize that, the more that creative endeavors will play themselves out in cryptocurrencies. But basically, digital enterprises will replace with these physical ones that we have. But it's because the world, as long as they have the option to make something like Google up to just the governed or regular people, they will do that. We're just going to go in the direction of these more decentralized systems. And for that reason, I'd say that Google, Facebook, Twitter, these things are kind of like, they're on the way out, but it might take like a decade or something. But I say that to say that the immutability, and here's what I wanted to say. Here it is. Immutability, the word contract, like, here's the thing about immutability is that, like, let me give you a good example of why the decentralized system, like Ethereum is a blockchain, and a bunch of different cryptocurrencies can be written on that. And this whole system is decentralized. It's up to people. And so the people who write the programs can't go in and change it. So then that program is just up to anybody who downloads a version of the contract, like the contract is. But a good example of a blockchain like Ethereum, that is an object-oriented system where each object is a new cryptocurrency, is just language, as I've described before. The language that you used, because you plot out, you organize in your mind all these, an interconnected system of points of reference. Each person's mind is an object-oriented system in terms of like them knowing language. Besides that, the entire world as it's laid out, it's just a giant object-oriented system. And is the same thing as language, because when you invent a TV, you also invent a word. Like the television as it exists now, television as a word probably might have existed before somebody made the television, but it's like, basically you invented a new word for this device, or at least you expanded what it means for whatever television is, to the point that the thing that we know as a television is the television as it looks now. Like the TV in your house is well representative of the idea of television, so much that it is so iconic, but like so much, like television assumed an identity in the form of the TV that's in your house, as opposed to the idea of television probably encompasses more than like this physical object, and so that idea might have existed before. But it's like when you invent the idea, you invent a new word. Like airplanes didn't exist, you invented an airplane, now there's also this word. And I say that to say that literally the definitions for a word, that you might be able to plot out the territory in your mind well, and this is something that would speak to your intelligence, your ability to relate the territory of a word to other ones. And everybody has a different way of configuring the object-oriented system in their mind, and then miscommunication between people results as a matter of one person's perception versus another person's perception of a word that you are both trying to communicate, entering into communion over to to try to critique the word as it's said or whatever, like that you're both trying to process a word that's said. People have slightly different perceptions because they configure words differently, because they come to know words differently, come to relate words differently, but everybody configures the system so that the locations, like in a geographic sense of all the words in your mind, these locations are different. Everybody's world of words is like a different geography than everybody else's. And so miscommunication results, obviously, because there's no, like, people don't have the exact same perceptions. And so, like, and what I'm saying is that words, like, you take the word contract, you take the word perception, and especially the word perception, because perception as a word is already related to, like, the area of things that I'm talking about. Is perception is because I'm making a point about, like, immutability, and I'm stalling for time about words. The point that I'm making is that a decentralized system is like a set of words, because a word like perception doesn't change. But more importantly, cryptocurrencies, one of the best analogies that you would say, like, the system of all cryptocurrencies as it exists in a blockchain is like words. Like, a cryptocurrency is like a word because a word is the same thing as a program, but it is more like a decentralized system than a centralized one, because words do not change the same way that contracts written on a blockchain do not change. Like, words are immutable. Jesus. My phone just fell off. My phone just fell off because I'm just, like, talking so energetically like Hitler does or something. But I'm not, I wasn't slamming down on the table. I didn't need to do that. It was just the sound of my voice that made the phone. I apologize. This is so embarrassing. The phone fell out. Oh my God. Let me take a moment to think about where I am in life. Why'd the phone fall out? No, and is God telling me something? Is God telling me that the phone fell off, and so I need to change my train of thought? Holy fuck, it's about to fall again. It's like, basically the thing that I'm setting it up on just doesn't work now all of a sudden, so guess I'll just go out and buy a new one, because seeing as that nobody knows how to make a device anymore that works, it does the thing that it's supposed to, I'll just go ahead and buy a fucking new one. Nothing wrong with that. That should be fucking easy. Let me just go ahead and do that. That'll be worth it. Since nobody knows how to put a device on the market that actually works, or something. I don't actually care. I think I just thought it would be funny if I was angry. But I do care, because I am sort of annoyed. But on the other hand, I more care about that I was in the middle of this thing and then the fucking thing stopped working. But obviously, like, I should have bought some $100 one or whatever. But don't get pissed at me, audience member, just because I might have bought something that was more cheap. Now I'm picturing that somebody's critical of me for not taking the steps necessary so that this kind of thing wouldn't happen. So now I'm gonna have to merge those videos together, but it doesn't really matter because it was easy last time. It's easier than I thought. But I'm telling you about immutability, and that's not lost on me that that's what I was saying. I was talking about, like, a system of words. Like, the word perception is immutable. It doesn't change, like that somebody wrote the program, but it's peer-to-peer is the point. Language is, like, your use of the word perception is peer-to-peer. It's up to the governed instead of the people who are governing it. Like, the government doesn't have control over your ability to use the word perception, like, especially in a freer society, like in a society that's not completely prohibiting your use of words. Like, there's some words that it's prohibited to use these online. In centralized systems, like Twitter and Facebook and Google, they regulate the words that you can use, because they can go in and say that if this word is used, then this user should be taken out, or whatever. They can regulate the amount of swear words that you use if it's a word that they don't like or whatever. So it's like, unless you write the program to say that this word can never be used on my program when people interface with it or whatever, it's like, because you could write a social media platform as a decentralized app or whatever. If you don't write in the program beforehand, then it will never be the rule within that program that you can't use a certain word, or like this user will be taken out if it wasn't written in originally, because the program you write is immutable, the same way that, like, the blockchain is just creating blocks, and the series of blocks, you can't go back and change it. This is like what's important about this new technology. But like the words that we use are peer-to-peer. Though what's decided about them is peer-to-peer, like your perceptions of things. But it's like the word perception, it might change over time, and perception and any word that we use is a tool that we use, like, and it's a tool that we use for the point in time that we need to use it. Like perception might not have been a word 2,000 years ago or whatever, but we arrive at a place where we're starting to articulate the idea behind perception, and so people start to say it more or whatever. Like the word perception would reach, but words have a lifespan the same way that people do, and I'm just kind of in the business of saying, so I don't know if my phone is about to fall off again because I'm using the same thing to hold it up. I just had to reposition it. I don't know if I'm probably just going to try to go forward with this same thing rather than because I'm too lazy to go out and buy a new one or whatever, but whatever, me taking the lazy way out is why I'm in the position where my phone, because this thing is supposed to hold my phone, and now it just keeps spitting it back out at me when I try to put it in, like launching it onto the floor. And but the words, like a word like perception changes over time, especially your perception of it, but based on the word itself, based on the program that's written. Like it's not like somebody wrote the program, but it's still a tool that we use the same way that we would use like a program, the same way that we use a app that's written for the weather, that shows you the temperature, that delivers you what the temperature is right in the palm of your hand. Same way somebody writes an app, like this is a tool that we use to help ourselves out. Words are the same thing. They're like programs that are written, that are a tool that we're using in society, but that we're speaking it at all shows that we're using the tool. But words are utilizable by everybody as long as you know the language, but you can use them, and it's like totally free in this way, like as opposed to something that's regulated. Like the programs in this case are up to everybody, is peer-to-peer. Like your use of the word, and you get to have what perception that you want. You get to have the perception that you arrived at of the word perception, or of any word that you're using, and this is not controlled by somebody else. It's up to everybody to decide what the perception of the word is. This is what happens with a cryptocurrency that's written on a blockchain, because it is immutable and not up to the person who created it can't change the rules of the game. The game is then decided by everybody, the same with a word. But it's like a word like perception, we didn't use this, like at some point it arose, and it only arises at the point that we need the tool, to the point that we come up with the word. We come up with the program, we come up with the device of perception, to the function of it, to use it as we need to. But if you're saying it a lot in society, this speaks to that the circumstances in society, or like the way that time evolved, with all other existing programs and processes, corporations, like ways that people are living out their life, like all other circumstances in the world surrounding a function, like what I'm trying to describe right now is that like Target exists in the world, but it only is relevant because of the rest of the circumstances in the world allow for it, or make it so that there's this reality of Target that people would buy into. But Target also tries to match itself to the rest of the world to say that, like, if they are relevant, it means that the function that they provide is necessary or whatever. But the world has to match up to the thing. But that's what being current is, or so being current is, things that are current are going to continue to be, I mean, they're going to keep flowing, but they only keep flowing as long as like they're still alive. But words have a lifespan, like the way that people do. I would say that people are ideas, especially, and words are ideas. Like everything is just an idea. A person is an idea the same way that like a function is. Same way that the word perception is, a little bit. Like a person is an idea. You understand that this is true because once a person dies, really the only thing that they exist as is an idea, or something symbolic. Like once Babe Ruth dies, he is just a symbol of sorts. Like, and if you weren't memorable at all, then you're no symbol. You really just exist in a couple people's memories, and eventually everybody will be forgotten anyway. But like, you have a lifespan, and also words have a lifespan. The lifespan of a word is similar to like the relevance of its function. It's the same thing as the relevance of a company, or like the US Open for golf. Like, for as many years as that exists, as long as the world thought it was important that somebody would win this golf tournament, or any golf tournament. Like, a world that sees value in winning a golf tournament is the only world that's going to allow for this specific node reality, like this specific function, the US Open, this specific program, this game that's written, US Open in golf. Like, as long as the rest of the world finds it valuable that somebody wins a golf tournament, is as long as this program meets the circumstances of the rest of the world, and that's as long as the US Open gets to exist and is relevant. And so it means something when it's lasted 100 however many years. And that's why these programs emphasize, like, oh, this is the 78th Grammys, because that's how long this thing is important. But like, what I'm saying is, the perception of perception as a word will change through the ages. So I don't know when the word first arose, but when it first arose, it's kind of like at the point that the world was, like, people in the world or anybody was smart enough to figure out what fire was, but like also circumstances would have pushed us to figure out what fire is because we like needed to do that, or like somebody inventing the wheel or a tool, or just somebody inventing a tool that to hit animals with to kill them easier, like the first tools that were invented. Like, we come up with the definition, like we come up with a way to shape the tool at the point that we intelligently discern what that function would look like or how it exists. And so, like, I was bringing up the TV exists, like you invent a new thing, you also invent a word to say that like the definition in reality that you create, it corresponds like directly to that you would create the definition of a territory for a word in your mind. And like they're kind of inseparable a little bit. And like, and the world is, the way that all these objects in the world are laid out in front of you is like a language all on its own. It's just a physical manifestation of language. But like, perception changes throughout the ages. And it's not like necessarily a program that somebody had written, but it's like somebody was the first person to say the word. But because it is so peer-to-peer and up to everybody that's using it, we get to decide the perception of it. We get to decide the perception of an idea like sacrilege. We get to understand, we get to say what that means, but it changes over time, and then it takes on new meanings based on the perception that everybody has, like as a society or individually, or just as a result of the collection and accumulation of all individual perceptions that results in a whole culture or whole society's perception, would dictate what the perception of an idea like sacrilege is. But it's like sacrilege as an idea, let's say that that's lasted for 2,500 years, like it was incepted 2,500 years ago. Over the ages, people will have different interpretations of sacrilege based on the circumstances of the world, or like based on what religions that exist. You'd say that like, because different religions, different forms of sacrilege would play out for different religions based on what the religion is. The sacrilege would look different, and like, so there's different interpretations as long as this idea lasts. But it's like the tool of sacrilege, us needing to describe things like this. If somebody, like, you use it as a tool because people need to describe sacrilege at some point. They want to point out that sacrilege is happening in the church, and so they're like, we come up with the means to describe it. This helps us point out what the problem is so that we can fix things and move on and evolve past it. But like, a word exists only as long as its tool and its function is relevant. I bring up perception to say that perception would have a bright future, because perception is a word for, like, perception might have been created a long time ago, but like 2,000 years ago, there would have been no use for it. But it reaches its peak at some point, the same way that a person would reach their peak either mentally or physically, or the same way that a city might reach a peak in terms of population or in terms of cultural relevance. Like, for example, in the 90s, Seattle reached some sort of peak where like all the cultural shit was coming out of Seattle. Like, grunge was the top music, and Microsoft is pumping out computers from the Seattle area, besides at Boeing. But Boeing doesn't really count. I'm saying like Microsoft computer creation, the PC hit its stride in the 90s, and so did grunge, but it's kind of like the epicenter of the world in some senses was Seattle, but for the era of the 90s. But this can happen for cities, in my opinion. Like, a city is like an idea the same way, where a city would have a rise and fall. where it might have a cultural peak, and for some cities in the nation, this might be coming up. But like Texas could be the cultural center of the world, or like pop culture center for America in the future, as opposed to Los Angeles or New York. Based on that, a community of people centers around Texas, more so, to say that like this is where all the pop cultural influential people are going, like this is where pop culture exists now. But in terms of cultural relevance, a city might be waiting for the world's circumstances to match up with itself, because a city is a specific culture that doesn't speak to every single era. And the point that I'm saying is that people are kind of like an era, or like a person. You might have an era that most correctly characterized, like would most correctly match up with who you are and your character. Like you might be an era, a person. A city is like an era, and that, to the extent that a city is an era, some cities are waiting around for the era to be theirs, and it might be a future where, but like Cincinnati had its era in the late 1800s or something. Like this is when they would have found their identity. It's like in a time gone by, because Cincinnati is all about the great American pastime or the traditions of baseball or whatever. It's like Cincinnati is a city that's stuck in, like they would have been more well suited for the late 1800s or something, and this is what they carry out by identifying themselves so strongly as a baseball city. Like there's nothing more baseball than the Cincinnati Reds, and the Cincinnati Reds are the original baseball team, and so it's like Cincinnati can't escape from their baseball identities and that kind of thing. But they're like, but the city just maybe the city overall is just kind of antiquated, rather than that. You don't, like Cincinnati, I don't get the impression that they are like really on the up and up, or that they mean to identify themselves to be on the cutting edge, and maybe they try, but they're not doing a very good job. But like, what I'm saying is, the perception of any idea, any word that you're using, changes over time, so that people see different things in it. It's the same with like Christianity. Christianity, people are projecting something new on it every single century, so that what you're living out for Christianity is actually a different set of things, and it's based on, some of it is based on how the world is matching up with Christianity, because the world has to dictate a lot about what the Christian church looks like. For example, like 30 years ago, the Christian church wasn't interested in these liberal ideologies, but nowadays the modern Christian church is a lot more liberal, where they're really making it a point to say that they accept gays, and that they're like on board with the vaccine. Like they're more, I would say that they're a little bit too much on board with the vaccine, the Christian church, but like more liberal shit, like they're more into feminism than even the world is, because the world in some senses dictates to them how they should live their life, especially when it's the case that Christian is a group of people that separates themselves from the world. So they're not going to say that they are, they're going to say less that they intersect themselves with the world. And so the messages that get back to them from the world, they kind of have to take them at face value, rather than that they would say that because they're not identified to what's actually going on in the world enough to actually understand the situation. And so it's like messages that come back from the world to the Christian church has to take them at face value more, to just say at some point that like, oh yeah, we were wrong about feminism, or like they might. I'm just saying, the point I'm making is that you can guilt the Christian church into things, because they're a group of people that feels guilty, and so the world might tell them, oh, you should feel guilty about not being socialist enough. Jesus was socialist. And so the Christian church is evolving to be more liberal, but it's basically like things that exist over a long period of time, they exist because of their ability, because of their utility. And it's the same with a cryptocurrency. Like, you writing a valuable cryptocurrency, the point in you writing one, or an important part of it, is that you write it very encrypted, because a word like perception would be one that I'd say is very encrypted. Like a word survives off of its ability, like it lasts longer because of its encryption, because of its undefinability. The more encrypted that a word is, like the more encrypted the program you write, the longer it's going to last. And so this is an important thing that you're trying to do when you write a program, is you're going to make one that lasts forever, because the thing that you're creating is entirely dependent on the program you're writing in the moment, because you can't change it later. And so you have to write a lot of encryption into it, and that's why encryption in itself is so important. And so the language that you write into the program has to be undecipherable to people, because if it is decipherable, then people will find it in themselves to write a similar program, especially like if in a world where people are more inundated with the need for programming languages or whatever. Like, but also like people would write the program again if they figured out, oh, this is all that you did. But the world will probably come to be more eloquent in speaking programming languages. But besides that, there's enough people in the world that, like, if your app was very simple, they could just rewrite the same thing and probably do it better. They could make a substitute that was better if it was very obvious. Like if the rules of the program are too decipherable, you can recreate the same thing very easily and probably do it better. And so it's like, and then the new program that somebody would write would render your program obsolete, because a word or a cryptocurrency will become obsolete when it is no longer encrypted, because people don't engage with things that they already know. And you do the same thing with people that are around you, like people that you know. You don't talk to people that you write off, that you already know everything about them, and it is less, you are more worshipful of the things that you don't understand, or the things that are more mysterious. You would rather hang out with somebody that you don't understand. If it's somebody that you already understand everything coming out of their mouth, you don't care, then you don't hang out with them in most cases. Or it's like you don't seek to, or you're not interested. The program you write, this is why encryption is important, is because the programs you write, they will only last as long as their encrypted value, because you as the creator of it can't go in and change it. And so the program you write has to match up with the world's circumstances going forward for a very long time if you want it to last. And so this is like, its survivability is based on how valuable or encrypted, like how valuable your program is, how indecipherable it is, so like the value of it. And so you have to write a program that allows for a lot of things, or would allow for a lot of interpretations going forward, because a word like perception only lasts as long as people are able to project interpretations onto it. And you recognize that there's new fashion for just about every decade, especially in more recent centuries where things are speeding up. There's new fashion for every decade, and so a word like perception has new perceptions projected onto it at all times, like as a tool. Or like sacrilege has new perception, new interpretations all the time, different interpretations than interpretations that existed for the word when it existed in the year 1321 or whatever. It has to account for new things all the time. And so utility is important for a word. Like a word is only going to survive as its function for as long as it is, for as agent as it is, it depends on its capacity for new ideas to be projected onto it, like its capacity for it to be interpreted, its ability to be representational, like how long it can be representational, or how symbolic it is so that it lasts forever. Is what's going to decide its utility. But basically, words work like this, where they're immutable, and it's just up to the entire group of people that engage in it. Everybody that agrees to use the word, this is like a contract. Word is like a contract. Let's examine the word contract as a word, just so we go too many layers deep into it. Let's say how the word contract is a contract. The word contract is a point of reference that everybody agrees on when they're using it, so that but that it's incorporated into language, where we speak the word contract, we're talking about the word for the point of reference that is everybody agrees, but it's everybody is agreeing that this is valuable, that we're using the word at all, and that's why we end up using it. But everybody's on the same page to use this word. And let me take this in a different direction. Perception. I don't know why I keep choosing words that are on the line. I need to just make a different episode about perception itself. But the program for a word doesn't change. It's up to everybody to decide. It's up to the community of people to surround what's going on with the word, to say something new about it, or whatever's decided about the word. And so different areas of the territory of a word are exploited during the course of its existence. Different corners of the market of the territory of a word are exploited throughout its existence. And so the definition for the word better be It better have a lot of agency or have territory that's unexplored, or like its talents have to be able to keep emerging, or else it won't be relevant. But like some words are like this, like the word perception on its own is just would be like a giant maze. With the within of the territory, the definition of perception would be like a giant maze, because perception is a complicated enough word. It's describing a full gathering of events or a full grasping of events, but it doesn't have to exist at any one level, does a perception. Like your perception of a car is your perception of a car can just be that you press the accelerator and then it makes a car go, and that's as far as you know, intelligently speaking, about the car. But you could also know the entire anatomy of a car and know the name of the lever that's attached from the accelerator to like where, however it makes the engine go. You could be able to label all the parts of an engine. But so you could have that perception too, where you know the entire car. But basically, your perception, it's dependent on how deep of a level you have fully grasped something, but it doesn't have to be a full grasping. It's just that the idea perception goes so far that it would be like perception, the idea is a full grasping of just in general, full grasping itself, and so it goes to the most specific level possible, but it never stops. Would perception, like perception could label the specifics of an atom and then go further than that. Like it would go into more and more microscopic levels that we've never even diagrammed before, is what perception could do. Like it could fully grasp definitions at very deep and microscopic levels, ones that we've never even considered. Could the idea perception, but like but this is an idea more well suited for a time period when things would be more microscopic or are becoming more condensed so that everything is digital, as opposed to 2,000 years ago. The only new inventions that you made would have been like a physical object, but nowadays you can make an invention and it's just like a digital reality that you created. And so this is more related to perception. I'm just making the point that perception is a word that we can, like, it probably hasn't even hit its peak yet, but but at the point that a word is hitting its peak is the point at which we're using it a ton. Like the word conspiracy, we're just using this word a lot, but it's because at some point we needed to describe conspiracy. But it's a good thing that we have this tool and that it is up to us, because this is like one of the greatest tools that people have, that people that aren't governed, is just language itself, because they can use these tools. They can use the word conspiracy to explain conspiratorial things that would happen on the other side of governing bodies like the American government. They can use the tool of conspiracy to describe what's going on, because if they didn't have that tool, they wouldn't be able to communicate that to other people, so that there's like so that a community could arise around that. Oh, these things are conspiratorial and we need to put a stop to them or whatever. Like we use all these words as tools for ourselves, but at the point that we're using the word conspiracy over and over and over again, this shows that the relevance, the importance of the era, like the importance of it in this era is so strong. Like when you see that we're just circulating this word like it's a currency, like it's money or something, like the same way that, yeah, like the more that when the word is circulating person to person more and more, that shows how relevant the word is. But it's almost like symbolically, if you were to look at this time period 200 years from now, you would look back and say that, oh, it's like conspiracy was a tool that they're using. So like conspiracy is like an invention that is iconic to the time period, the same way that an invention would be. Like it would be similar to, yeah, be similar to like an invention that we need to use, that we circulate, that it appears in everybody's home, like that a TV appears in everybody's home. This is how relevant it is. But a word can achieve this the same way, where like everybody's using conspiracy or whatever to describe things because it's so in our face. But this is just kind of like the reality that we are then creating is so much more conspiratorial, because it's on everybody's lips. But because it's on it's like on everybody's lips, it's like a word, or it's like fashion. But I had these ideas, wrapping them together in a thing, but I'm talking about the immutability of, like, we can't change perception, we can just create new perceptions of it. We can just take We just arrive at new interpretations, and this is exactly what would happen with a cryptocurrency that's written on a blockchain. Because it is immutable and it is just up to everybody who participates in the game, it's up to the people to just project new interpretations onto the cryptocurrency as time goes on. And at the point that they don't anymore, or they find this function not useful, they will throw it away. But this is better than the system that we have now, because the system that we have now isn't up to people. It's just up to the person who programmed the game, and they can change the rules whenever. And so decentralized systems are the future. I don't know how long that would take, but I guess I'm done talking about that. Let me think. This idea is just so exciting. Like, I don't want to leave anything out. Like, the word is a program that everybody, you download it like it's a virus, and then you're saying it. Like, the word perception, the word conspiracy, that lots of people are just saying it, just that people are saying it at all. It speaks to the viral ability of the word. Like, and a word like conspiracy, like, if you're considering that people are ideas and words are ideas and like inventions are ideas, all of these things are ideas. People are like a virus or like an idea that catches on sometimes, where it's like Donald Trump, everybody's saying that at some point, especially like 4 years ago or whatever, and still to this day, people are just saying Donald Trump a lot. It's because Donald Trump rises to this level where he's like a governing perception on the entire world. Like, the perception of it is so influential that we can't help but say the word. But it's because he's an idea that caught on like a virus to some extent, where everybody can't go around doing anything without using that to describe what they're doing in their daily life, at least to some extent. But like, people can have an influence on you this way, where it's like everything you do is just, you're talking about this one person, or because they had such an impact on your life. But you can be under the governing influence of another person for a really long time. You do the same thing with the technology, or like coffee, when it becomes so identifiable to you, where you're like, coffee does. I am coffee. Like, if you drink coffee nonstop for a decade, like, basically the person you are now is a caffeinated person. Like, coffee, it becomes a part of you. The more it's just, the relationship you build is so strong that you frequently just do coffee all the time, then coffee becomes a part of you. But it's like you enter into a relationship with that thing and become so influential to you that it becomes you. And it's basically like the position that you are in life, in some respects, is just the result of an integration of all the influences that went into your life, or like all the people that you surround yourself with, and all of these are like influences of, and then what results is that you are a collection of ideas that coexist in this certain way based on your specific set of experiences. And then what comes out of your mouth is the result of that. And then different people's positions are differentiated in this way. Like, this is what makes them significant, is your specific set of experiences or specific set of influences that are governing you. But it's kind of like the word conspiracy acts as a virus, or like because the tool of it is necessary enough. But if you were to consider that people are like ideas, and then say that a word like conspiracy in some respects is like sentient, then you would say that because it has agency and utility, that it is almost like a living thing, where through the ages it keeps surviving because of its ability for people to project new interpretations onto it. It's kind of like a growing thing, something that grows, because you would exploit new areas of it all the time if it was able to continue to be relevant, match itself up with the world's circumstances. It's kind of like a virus that invades people's minds, and then when people are saying it a lot, this speaks to the effectiveness of the virus, or just the character or definition of the word itself. Like, within the definition of conspiracy is where you'll find every instance of it, or anything that could ever be spoken about it. And like, so then there's certain words like perception that just speak to a maze-like where you would only ever, where it's would only ever be confusing to describe you having perceptions of an idea like perception, when the idea itself would be able to perceive better than any person ever would. Like, the word perception, like perception as an idea is very perceptive and is more so than anybody else would ever be. Like, conspiracy is conspiratorial. But like, we come to a place where we define the word so that we can use it as a tool. So we are still over these things. That because we've defined them. Like, they are still subject to us, but just that you would understand that we are in a relationship with these tools that we're using, that goes both ways. That the Earth orbiting around the sun and the Earth are both involved in that. It's not that the Earth is orbiting around it. Also, the sun is having this thing orbit around it. This is a relationship. But depending on which of the two is bigger is going to dictate what is orbiting around what. And sometimes a conspiracy, like if it's conspiracy that becomes such a big idea, it like arises to the point that we're almost orbiting around it. But it's like, conspiracy is only going to be as viral as its ability to be that, and that would be spoken by the within of the program of the word. The definition of the word is going to say everything already about how long it can survive, and this is exactly how a cryptocurrency is. The way that it is written is already going to determine everything about its ability to be encrypted going forward. Like, everything that can be allowed for within the program is already written within the program. And so a system that's decentralized is better suited to reflect, like, I don't know. I mean, it goes beyond authority. Maybe you'd say that it's more natural, like the same way that our awareness of words, the way that that comes out, is relatively natural in comparison to more manufactured things. Those are less natural. So it's like, but like a decentralized system, yeah, like it's a little bit more natural, is if you're on board with saying that the way that we end up articulating words is also natural. But thank you for listening. Please tune back in when or wherever that you want. It is it's my pleasure and fun quip to end the thing, and then I'm bad at ending as always. Yep, and then it's still not done, and then we're still not done, and I'm still saying to end it, and well, I'll bring you all back on the program later. How's that? Talk to you all later on.